What's up guys, Ryan with Cycle News. Welcome to our 2023 450 Motocross Shootout. This is some of the most fun we get to have all year round when we get to test all the new 450 motocross bikes. We had 6 different test riders over 2 different days at 2 different tracks. It's a lot of man hours, it's a lot of work, but it's super rewarding when we get to bring you the results like this. Big shout out to all the manufacturers that came out, all the gear brands that supported us with gear for this test, and the tracks for letting us come out and ride. The 2023 Kawasaki KX450. The Kawasaki retails for $95.99 and has a wet weight of 246 pounds. The Kawasaki KX450 returns for 2023 with virtually no changes from the previous year. Since its inception in 2019, this generation KX has been a contender in nearly every shootout. With its Ergo Fit system, hydraulic clutch, Showa suspension, and 3 coupler mapping systems, it's still the heaviest bike in the test aside from the Suzuki, but we'll get to that in a second. While the other bikes are all new for this year, the Kawasaki's tried and true character hopes to win over our riders. Despite being totally unchanged for this year, the Kawasaki still finds itself in 2nd place. The Kawi doesn't necessarily jump off the page or wow you with anything that's totally out of this world, but what it does is it does everything really well. It's so planted and predictable that laps flow together with noticeably less effort than some of the other bikes. The chassis is stable at speed through the fast stuff, but still nimble enough for you to switch up lines and hit the insides. It's not overly engineered. Its square seat and neutral rider triangle are likely most comparable to the Suzuki in terms of styling. It's smooth where you want it, like the initial roll-on, and the way it carries through the revs. At the same time, it offers a good punch and really encourages you to twist the throttle to the limit. It's an easy engine to ride and one of the only bikes where you can actually feel like you're getting the full potential out of it. The connectivity from the grip to the rear wheel is hard to beat, and input from the rider feels like a seamless transition. In the past few years, we felt like the modern 450s have verged on almost having excessive horsepower, which limits the overall rideability. The Kawasaki is reliable in terms of what we expect from the engine, and in turn, it lands it near the top of the list. Showa suspension comes standard on the KX, and this complements the chassis in a way that feels plush in the chattery bumps, but stiff enough to absorb a big landing. It's really the best of both worlds, we think. The rear end is planted to the ground and provides riders with the confidence to lay the power down and steer with the rear tire. In terms of changes, all we did was make a few clicker adjustments to the rebound to get the fork to sit better when cornering. Aside from that, the suspension package on the Kawasaki is pretty solid right out of the box. So if it's so good, why didn't it win? Well, good question. We still have a few complaints with the Kawasaki when we compare it directly to the winner. The stock levers and grips have simply got to go. Also, the Kawasaki is the heaviest bike of the bunch. You don't really notice the weight while riding, but more weight is essentially lost horsepower. And finally, the mapping couplers aren't a huge setback, but they will lose to a handlebar mounted switch every time. Granted, as a bike you're going to personalize, the Kawasaki could easily take the cake. Simply swap grips, levers, chain guide, sprocket, and you'd have a serious contender. Rumors say that there's a new 2024 model in the works, so here's hoping they touch up those minor details. 3 of these bikes were all new this year, the KTM, the Yamaha, and the Husqvarna, while the other 3 bikes received small or actually no updates. The Honda certainly wins best dressed, the Yamaha takes the honors for the strongest motor, Kawasaki is a close second, but KTM earns the best overall. With more time on each of these rigs or bolting on our own personal parts like bars, pegs, levers, etc., we could easily mold any of these bikes into a race day superstar. But for now, we take them as they are in stock form and wait until next year to continue the shootout action. Thank you guys so much for watching. That wraps up this year's 2023 450 Motocross Shootout. You'll be able to find a full write-up, spec sheet, and photos in the Cycle News magazine. You can check those out every Tuesday at cyclenews.com for free. Thank you to all the gear brands and manufacturers who contributed to our test this year. Until next time, guys, we'll see you out at the track.